Some say that an invisible red string is tied around the fingers of soulmates meant to be together forever. As it turns out, you can see these red strings, and have therefore created a highly successful matchmaking business. Ben sat alone at the singles table, sipping his gin and tonic and watching the guests go wild to Uptown Funk. A woman about his age, plopped down next to him and without bothering to introduce herself, asked, "Is it true?" He could see her intense gaze through his peripheral vision, but he kept his eyes glued to the dance floor. "Is what true?" "What the best man said in his speech. That you predicted that they'd get married when you guys were in the 3rd grade. Is that true?" Ben took another swig. "I mean, yeah, it's true. He was always pulling her hair, teasing her for reading during recess, calling her freckles and all that. Pretty obvious in retrospect." "In retrospect, sure. But most kids don't know that when a boy teases a girl, it means he likes her. So what, you were just the most emotionally advanced 3rd grader on the planet." He laughed. "I wasn't half bad." Finally turning to look at her, he noticed she was quite pretty, and with the gin warming him up, he figured, he may as well go for it. He let a grin spread across his face. Plus, the red string helped. She waited a beat for him to elaborate, but he wasn't going to do her dirty work for her. If she wanted to ask, she could. "And that is what exactly?" She eventually caved, seeming mildly annoyed. "This would normally sound like total bullshit, but since we have living proof right here in the loving union of Lisa and Jeff, I guess I could explain. A lot of people have little red strings tied around their fingers, and on the other end of the string is their soulmate's finger. Since I was a kid, I could see these strings." She gawked at him for a second. "Bullshit. If you had that kind of power, you'd be famous. You'd have a reality show, finding Kim Kardashian a soulmate or something." He scoffed. "She wishes. But finding someone's soulmate is an intimate process. I basically have to walk with them, drive with them, or even fly with them to reach the end of the string. It's not like it's a GPS. A string is a string. The only way for me to find it is to personally direct them myself. Unless their soulmate happens to be in the room. Or the person they're dating. Then it's easy." She pointed to a guy on the dance floor, frat bro type belting out Mr. Brightside. "Is he my soulmate?" Ben put his hands up and shook his head. "No way, I don't do that shit. This is exactly why I don't want to be famous. I'll have everyone begging me to find their perfect person and I don't want to be responsible for breaking up couples. It's a lose-lose for me and I won't get a moment of peace." She rolled her eyes. "I'm not trying to harsh your zen here, Buddha. I met the dude on Tinder like 2 weeks ago because he needed a wedding date and I like open bars. I don't think he's my soulmate." "Fine. Then he's not your soulmate." She seemed to ponder that for a minute, still looking at the guy, and then quietly asked, "Do I even have a string?" "Yeah." He thought about telling her that her string led directly to his, but she didn't seem stupid enough to fall for that line. And she had already come to the wedding with this other guy. "It leads out of the room. We've been dating for 3 years." Ben nearly spit out his drink. "Why'd you lie like that?" Defensively, she said, "Like you'd tell me the truth if you knew it was a serious relationship." He shrugged, tacitly agreeing with her point. "And relax, it's not like you're telling me anything I didn't already know. I was going to break up with him after the wedding. I know he's not my soulmate." Ben took another drink. "Well, I guess no harm done then. What about you? Where's your soulmate? She didn't want to come to this rinky-dink town for a wedding?" "I cut off my string a while ago. I like surprises," he replied, a lie he had repeated so often, he almost started to believe it. She stared at him for a moment, and Ben thought she saw through his lie and was weighing whether or not it was worth it to call him out before she blurted out, "I want you to find my soulmate." He winked at her. "Sorry, you can't afford me." She smiled. "You don't know me. How can you possibly presume I can't afford it?" He sighed. "It's $1 million deposit and $350K for each day it takes to find your soulmate. And of course, you cover all travel and meals along the way." He grinned at her. "So, was I wrong?" She shook her head but didn't stop smiling. "Definitely can't afford that. How about I just pay for travel and meals and you do the rest pro bono?" He leaned in toward her. "I don't negotiate. And I definitely don't do pro bono. What's your name anyway?" "Allison. And tell me the last time you helped find someone a soulmate who wasn't a multimillionaire. Don't you want to help the common people? That's why you came to this wedding, right? To be reminded of the first couple you ever helped. Just a couple of average souls." Ben laughed. "What? Just take Psych 101 or something? The rich deserve their soulmates just as much as we do. But I'll tell you what, Allison. You go over, break up with that sweaty man of yours right this second, and I'll happily find your soulmate for you." Without a word, Allison got up and straightened her dress and started to make her way over to the dance floor, her man still singing at the top of his lungs. Before she could leave the table, Ben grabbed her arm. Whoa, you can't really break up with someone at a wedding. Especially not when they're singing Mr. Brightside. It's just too cruel." She grinned, clearly pleased that she called his bluff. "So you'll help?" Ben rolled his eyes. "Fine, I actually happen to have a break in my schedule. My next client isn't available until next month, so if you want to find your soulmate, I'll help. But you have to promise me that you won't tell a single other person about me. And you have to break up with him. Just not today." Her eyes lit up. "And all I have to cover is travel and meals?" "Yeah, you better hope he isn't on some excavation in Antarctica or something." She laughed. "No soulmate of mine would ever be in a place that cold." He laughed, and then out of nowhere, Allison's boyfriend came and took her by the waist, giving Ben a suspicious look. Come on, babe, let's hit the dance floor. Allison allowed him to whisk her to the dance floor as Ben watched on, still grinning.